Hey good people, Boris here. Welcome to the Demented Robot Games YouTube channel. A channel dedicated, as some of you may or may not know, to modern board and card games. Now, today, I'm here to show you the game, but I'm really excited about this one because this is the first video that I'm making that you may call a sponsored video, because I was approached by the designer of the game himself and given a copy of this game, and I'm making an overview of this game in today's video. So I'm really excited about this, but you may also be excited potentially because we're talking about the game that is a small indie project and it's not readily available in board game stores worldwide, okay? So this game is somewhat exclusive in the sense that there's only one place on the internet where you can currently find the game and buy it if you get interested in the game. So I'm really excited about this video because it somehow feels special to me, okay? But having said that, since this is a sponsored video, I'm not going to express my personal opinion about the game. I'm just going to make an overview, and at the end, I'm going to tell you what kind of players I think this game is suitable for. So without much further ado, let's see what the game is. We're taking a look at Dash Arena. This is a two-player game and it is a sport. There's going to be two teams and they're going to go against each other. It happens in distant future of mankind where we are technologically significantly advanced compared to the present day. We have this huge technological processes happening. The guys who are members of the teams are these genetically modified clone-ish people wearing these high-tech exoskeleton suits. They're going against each other. They're trying to take possession of the disc that they are then trying to either carry into or shoot into the opponent's scoring area. That's how you score points in this game. You have to position yourself carefully and find your way to score. There's also one additional way of scoring where you will try to tackle or knock down the opponent's disc carrier. Okay? So there are two ways to score. You're going to be playing a really fast-paced, dynamic, tactical game where you will try to position yourself correctly, knock your opponents down, push them around, tackle them, try to clear your way basically to try to score points. You can bounce off of the walls, bounce off of the obstacles. You can shoot the disc, which can then bounce off of different people, and you're trying to tactically use your opportunities to score points. You will do that by rolling dice. You will have three dice to roll, and then upon seeing these results, you will decide what to do with them. You will allocate certain dice to certain people, and basically reactively, tactically play a very quick game against your opponent, trying to be the first person to score a designated amount of points. When you are the first person to score that amount of points, you will be instantly the winner of the game. In this video, in the next section, as always, I'm going to show you how the game works. In fact, I think I'll be able to actually teach you how to play the game. And then in the end of the video, I will return with some final words, not necessarily final thoughts, but final words, trying to help you determine what kind of player you need to be to like this game, okay? So without much further ado, let's see how the game works. Okay guys, this is how the game looks like when it's set up on the table. As you can see, the setup of the game is very simple. We have our board here. We have our disc spawned in the middle of the board by default here. We have our two teams. The blue team is placed here. These blue dots are starting points for your players. You place your guys in their beginning positions. You spawn your disc. You prepare your dice. And you can begin playing the game. These tokens are going to be used in the advanced rules. I will show you how that works a little bit later. Now, the rule book here states that you should play the basic rules during your first game or first 2 or 3 games, however long it takes you to learn and absorb the basic concepts of the game. And then once you do, you can start playing with the advanced rules, which is actually how the game is meant to be played. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I will teach you first how to play the basic game, and then I will teach you how to play with these additional things like these tokens and these team cards and stuff like that. But for starters, we only need the board, we need our 6 guys, we need our disc, and we need 3 dice, and that's literally everything you need to start playing the basic games with the basic rules. Now, before we start, I just want to point out one important thing. There's one additional whole board in the box. and there's 4 teams. So you can basically play 2 games at the same time if you have 4 guys at the table. This board is more complicated because it has these additional obstacles that you will encounter on the board. So yeah, this can be fun as well. For the sake of clarity and for the sake of simplicity of this demonstration, I chose to use the basic board here. Okay. So let's go with the basic rules first. I explained the setup. There's nothing to it really. You see how it works. With the basic rules, it doesn't matter where your guys go because they are all the same. So you can all place them at once on all of these 6 starting positions. In the advanced rules, it will be different because it will matter where these guys are placed, but we will come to that later. Okay. Now, the game, mechanically speaking, in terms of structure, it's very simple. The guy whose turn it is to play will roll these 3 dice, and then upon look at this, 3 6s. Dude, why am I not playing Yahtzee? Because it sucks. And anyway, you're going to roll these 3 dice, see what you have, and based on that, you will decide what to do with your team. There are 2 basic team actions that you can do. First is to move. The second is to shoot the disc, providing that you are in possession of this disc. Currently, nobody has it, so nobody could shoot. But if one of your guys has it, you can choose to shoot the disc. And these are team actions, which means that they must be done by your whole team. If you choose to move, all your guys have to move. They cannot shoot the disc. If you choose otherwise to shoot the disc, then nobody can move. Only one guy can shoot the disc. So you must decide what to do. So let's see how you move your guys first, because that's more complicated, okay? You roll your 3 dice and you decide that your guys will move. You will then, okay, I will roll these dice again because with 3 6s it really doesn't matter how I allocate my dice. Okay, you will roll your dice. You will see what you have, and then you will allocate 1 die per team member. So I will choose, for example, that this guy will have this die, this guy will have this, and this guy will have that. Then I will choose the move. I can move my guys in any order I wish, okay? When I move a guy, before I do that, I first have to choose the direction in which that guy is running, because once they choose their path, they cannot voluntarily change direction, according to basic rules, okay? So once the guys start running in any given direction, he has to keep running in that direction. The only thing that can make your guy change direction is bouncing off of the obstacles. These walls, as you can see, have these arrows which show you that you can basically bounce off of the walls of the arena and change your direction that way. So for example, I may choose to move this guy for 5, right? 1, 2, 3, and then I will bounce here, 4, and continue moving in this direction, 5. So I'm bouncing off of the walls in this direction. That's what these arrows show you. There are these bidirectional arrows, so you can bounce in this direction or the opposite one. And then also you have these unidirectional arrows that look like this. You bounce off of them in the opposite direction. That's how the whole thing works. But you also have these lines, green lines and these reddish lines on the board that are there to be some sort of guides to show you how you bounce off of the obstacles. That's very useful. Okay? So you will actively use walls to bounce off of these obstacles. So basically the rules are, you choose your direction, you move in that one direction, and you cannot change it unless you bounce off of something. Also, you need to move as long as you can until you spend all of these. These are called impulses, and they represent some sort of energy that you're giving, I guess, to these exoskeleton suits that your guys are wearing. Okay? You cannot stop moving or doing stuff unless you have spent all your impulses. So you cannot move halfway and then stop. You have to use them all. That's very important as well. You will basically spend 1 pip on the die, in other words, 1 impulse, to move into the next adjacent empty hex. Okay? So, for this guy, as I told you, I can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and end here. Or I can move 1, 2, 3, then bounce, 4, and then end up here, 5. Okay? So that's how I can move. The complications arise when guys bump into each other. Sometimes during your movement, and let me just reset the whole situation here, just to show you more easily. Sometimes you will run into something. So let's say that this guy is standing here, okay? And I'm moving forward in their direction. I have 5 impulses to spend. So I go 1, 2, 3. Now I have 2 more impulses to spend. I cannot stop doing stuff as long as I have impulses. I have 2 left. And by default, 2 figures cannot occupy the same hex. So what do I do in this case? I push. When I'm supposed to enter the hex already occupied by another figure, mine or somebody else's, I will push them out of that hex. So in this case, this guy has moved in this direction. He's moved 1, 2, 3. I still have 2 left, right? I will spend 1 impulse to push this guy out of his hex in the direction of my movement. So I will spend 1 to push them to here, okay? And I will spend my remaining impulse to go here, okay? This may even happen multiple times. For example, I will push this guy for 1, then I will go here, push this guy here, move here. That's 4 impulses, and then I will push them once again, if my calculations are correct. So this cycle can repeat, but you must not stop your action with any given figure before you have spent all your impulses. There's another complication. If you're supposed to push somebody into a hex already occupied by a third figure, for example, I'm moving this way with this guy, and I'm supposed to push this guy here, but I cannot push them because this hex is already occupied. Then I have to see whether this guy that being pushed is bumping into their ally or their opponent. In this case, the red guy is bumping into their opponent. Instead of being pushed, they are going to be knocked down to the ground, and they will be lying prone on the ground like this. But if I attempted to push this guy into their ally, who's also red, by pushing them, instead I will fall down because this guy is now guarding this guy, you see? So depending on whether you're pushing somebody into their into their opponent or their ally, you will either push them to the ground or you will be knocked down to the ground. These guys who are knocked down and lying prone on the ground, these are important for 2 reasons. First of all, a guy who's knocked down cannot do anything on their turn but stand up. Regardless of how many impulses they have on their die, they will spend them all just to stand up, and that's literally everything they do. The other reason why this is important is because somebody who's lying down on the ground is now an obstacle. So anybody moving in their direction, if they're supposed to enter that hex, instead of entering it, they will just bounce off of them in the opposite direction. So this guy will bump into this guy and can bounce off of them by starting to move in the opposite direction. So they are also an obstacle while they are lying down. Okay? Now comes the disc. Okay? This disc that we are fighting for and one that we are wanting to get possession of. When you run in a certain direction, the moment you stand on the hex with the disc, you are now in possession of that disc. You are called the disc carrier. You can choose whether to pick the disc up and continue running with it, or ignore it and just continue running with it, or you can choose to run with the disc and leave it at some point. So how you're going to behave depends only on you. But if you end your movement on a disc, you are now the disc carrier, and you are in possession of that disc. There's also one additional thing that you can do. You can pass the disc to one of your guys. So if I'm moving this guy together with the disc, I go here and I still have impulses left. Normally I would have to push this guy, but I can instead choose to spend 1 impulse. This guy can choose to spend 1 impulse to hand the disc over to this guy. Then if I still have impulses left, I can push this guy together with the disc if I want to. Whenever you push somebody, your own figure or somebody else's, because by the way, you can push anybody, your own figures or somebody else's, you choose whether you push them with the disc or not. So the one who does the pushing chooses whether the figure moves without the disc or together with the disc. It's this figure's choice, okay? During my running with the disc, if at any point I run into or through this scoring area of my opponent, I will immediately score 3 points, okay? That's how the whole thing works. So basically, I need to make sure that the disc goes into or through the opponent's scoring area. That's how I score goals, and each goal is worth 3 points. Okay? I think I have mentioned everything in relation to moving. Now, the other team action you can do is shoot the disc. Okay? So let's set up a random situation here. It doesn't really matter. Let's say our guys are
placed something like this, okay? And let's say this guy is here. And let's say this guy doesn't matter where he is, okay? Now, this guy has a disc. If one of my guys has a disc and it is my turn to play, I roll the dice. I can then choose to use my dice to shoot the disc, in which case that's all my team is doing. I'm not moving, I'm in that case just shooting. I'm then adding up all 3 dice. In this case I have 6, 7, 8, 9, I have 10 impulses to give to the disc. So I'm shooting it through the air and the disc has 10 impulses to spend. I will then choose the direction in which I want to shoot the disc. The disc will fly as long as it has impulses. It will bounce off of the obstacles, off of the walls normally, okay? When the disc flies into a figure, then the owner of that figure, depending on who that is, chooses in which direction to deflect the disc. This figure is then considered to be intercepting the disc. But here's the thing, as long as disc has any impulses remaining, the disc cannot remain in the possession of that guy. This guy can simply deflect the disc. So what I could do in this case is use these 10 impulses to shoot the disc in this direction. So it flies here, then it flies into the hex with this guy, and it still has impulses to spend. So this guy cannot keep the disc, he has to deflect it. This guy chooses to deflect it in this area because I want to score points, right? So this guy says, okay, let's deflect the disc in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I had a 6, I could, I'm knocking my guys left and right. So if I had 6, I could have scored the goal by deflecting the disc off of my guy, okay? The disc enters this space and scores me 3 points immediately, okay? The guys who are lying prone on the ground, they cannot intercept. So the disc just flies through them like that, okay? If I happen to shoot the disc into my opponent's figure, then my opponent chooses where the disc is going to deflect. Only if the disc spends its last movement, last impulse to get into the hex with the figure, only that will that figure actually keep the disc. So that's how you throw the disc. If after the movement of the disc or during the movement of the disc, it enters this space, it will score you 3 points. That's how you score a goal. And that's literally how you play the game. You score 3 by scoring a goal. There's one additional way in which you can score points. You can score 1 point if you knock down your opponent's disc carrier. So let's say that my guy is moving in this direction. He comes here. He's supposed to push this guy. I'm pushing this guy into one of my guys, which means that this guy falls down. But since this guy is holding the disc, I have just scored 1 point. So that's one additional way in which you can score points. And this is it. You play until you reach either 3 points for a short game, 5 points for a big game, or 5 points for a standard game, or 7 points for a long game. The moment points are scored either by scoring a goal or by knocking down your opponent's disc carrier, the game is reset. Everybody places their figures back to their starting points. And the team who just received the goal will then decide whether to spawn the disc in the default area or in their team disc spawn area. So each team has their own spawn area. And then they will be the first to roll dice and play. The moment somebody reaches the designated amount of points, that person is the winner of the game. So this is literally how you guys will play basic game. But that's just the beginning, because there are advanced rules. In the advanced rules, we will use these cards. So let's say that I'm a blue team. I will have these 3 cards, which will explain to me what the specialty is of each of my 3 guys. So each guy will now have their specialty. They will have their expertise area, let's say, and they will be particularly good at that. So this guy, for example, it's this one here. This guy will have the special ability to, let me see, to change his position by 1 empty hex before he starts running. So this guy will have a lot more flexibility when he moves in terms of the direction in which he can move. This guy here, okay, he's the thrower. Okay, this guy can throw in the middle of running, so he can run and then at one point choose to stop running and throw the disc in the desired direction and spend his remaining impulses to make the disc fly. So this guy can run and throw the disc at the same time. So he bends the rules that way. And this guy, the big guy, is quite obviously the blocker. Okay, this guy will push for somebody for 2 hexes instead of 1. And he, by only spending 1 single impulse, and he's also harder to push. You will need 2 impulses to push him out of his hex. This introduces some additional rules about pushing, because if you are ever to push somebody, you have to keep pushing until you successfully move them out of their hex. If you run out of impulses in the process, you will fall prone. So for example, this big guy, if this guy tries to push him, but he only has 1 impulse left, so he's not successfully pushing this guy out of his area, then he will instead practically bounce off of this guy and fall to the ground. So if you do an unsuccessful push, you don't have enough impulses, you're falling to the ground. So that's an additional rule for pushing. So this complicates the game quite a bit and gives you a much more additional tactical opportunities, because each of your guys are now specialists in a certain area of the game. There's also a tiny bit of difference in the setup, because now these guys have special abilities, and where you place them now matters. So, one player, I think the defender, will first place one of their guys. Then the other player, based on that information, they will place one of their guys. And we will go back and forth like that until we have placed all our guys here. Okay? So with these special abilities, it matters how you place your guys, and you will go back and forth placing your guys on the board. Okay? But this is not all, because we have one additional thing. Let me reset the board for us a little bit here. We have one additional thing that we're doing here. We may optionally use these tokens. These are called booster tokens. They are used with the advanced rules. They are optional. You either use them or you choose not to. If you do, you will place these boosters in certain spaces here on the board, Over the course of the game, you can pick them up, place them in your play area, and then you'll be able to use them to your own benefit, because each one of these will have some certain ability written on it. So you can, over the course of the game, use these discs that you have previously picked up to trigger them and use some special ability to your own benefit or against your opponent. I'm not going to explain exactly what these do, because it will make our video much longer. During the setup, during the spawning of your disc, but before you have placed these guys, okay, you have one of you is going to roll, I think the defender is going to roll 3 dice like this. Then they will pick up one of the dice and pick up one random face down booster token from the board and place it on a spot on the arena with that number. In this case, it's a 4. So I will place a disc. I will place this token either here or here. There are 2 4s. Let's say I choose to place it here. Then the next guy will pick up one of the remaining 2 dice. They will pick a 2 because they have to. They will pick one random token and place it on a number 2 space. So either here or here. Let's say they choose to place it here. Okay? And then the remaining dice will be used by the next player to do the same. So it's a 2. They will place it here. They have no choice because there's only one remaining number 2 spot. And that's it. We place our guys. We continue playing. If at the end of the movement of any of your figures is standing on a place with a booster, you then pick it up, place it in your play area. From that moment on, you have it at your disposal to use it. They will either trigger when you want to trigger them, or they will be triggered when certain conditions are met, depending on the token in question. Okay? So every time somebody scores, when we reset the board, before we place our guys, we will place new tokens by rolling these dice. If you are supposed to place on a space which is already occupied, and you cannot place it, then you will remove that token from the board, from the area, and it will not be used. The moment you are supposed to place a new booster token on the board and there are none left in the supply, that immediately ends the game, and whoever at that point has more points will be the winner of the game. And that's literally, guys, how you play this game. The only thing I haven't explained is exactly what these guys do, but I just don't want to make this video too long, so you will be able to very quickly see that if you buy this game and if you take a look at the rulebook. Anyway, you now practically know how to play the game. I've just taught you how to play the game. If you want to be sure whether you're doing things correctly, watch this video a couple of times until you get it. And you can literally start playing. In the next section of the video, I will share some final thoughts about what kind of player you typically need to be to enjoy this game. So let's do that.
There you have it. Dash Arena. That's the game for you. You've seen how it works. I was capable of actually teaching you the game. The only thing I did not mention in detail were what exactly these booster tokens do, but you can quickly consult the rulebook when you start playing with boosters and everything will be super clear. So you practically know how to play the game. Now, in this last section of the video, I want to explain to you what kind of player you need to be to enjoy this game, what kind of people this game is for, essentially. But before I do that, I first have to explain what this game is to give you context for this. What this game certainly is quick. This game really goes very fast, very quickly between the players, back and forth, back and forth. Theoretically, you can spend all the time in the world thinking about your move. No one can stop you. But somehow, the nature of this game and the very quick nature of this sport and the theme, which is supposed to be about this dynamic sport, somehow stimulates you to make your decisions relatively quickly. You roll your dice, you decide what to do with them, you allocate them, and then you start executing your move. Somehow the game stimulates you to do that quickly. So the game is fast. If you like fast dynamic games, you may be interested in this one. The second thing this game is highly, highly tactical. One of the most tactical games that I've tried. There's absolutely no strategy in here. You may try to think long term, but that just won't work. You may know what you ideally want to do, but your opponent will always surprise you. You may anticipate what your opponent is going to do psychologically, but here's the thing. You don't know what they are going to roll, and what they roll will determine how they make their decisions. This game is all about adaptation. You have to adapt to the dice that you have rolled and see the best options you have with those results. You have to react to what your opponent did on the board and how they positioned themselves. So this game is highly tactical, highly reactive. It simply forces you to think on your feet and to just react to the situation at hand. So it's highly tactical. If you are a tactical player, you may like this one. And finally, this game is certainly aggressive. It's very, very aggressive. You need to play this game proactively. You need to not be afraid to go ahead and ram into your opponents and knock them down to the ground or push them clear away to the scoring opportunity. You have to be aggressive. You have to get in there and do your stuff. So if you're afraid of engaging your opponent, if you're afraid of conflict, aggressive playing, then this game may not be for you. So the typical kind of player this game is a player who loves fast, aggressive, tactical playing. If you love speed, if you love thinking on your feet, if you like tactics, and if you like aggression, if you're a proactive player who likes to go in there and do your stuff and who's not afraid of conflict and interaction with your opponent, this will be the game that you should definitely take a closer look at. That's the typical kind of player this game is designed for. But of course, if you're a player who occasionally like this kind of thing, maybe you're not always playing these games, but occasionally you love a quick, aggressive, tactical kind of thing, again, you may want to take a closer look at this game. So there you have it. That's what Dash Arena is, and that's typically the kind of player you need to be to enjoy this game. But of course, if you're versatile, if you love various different genres, this game still may be for you, okay? That's what Dash Arena is. Now, as I said at the beginning of this video, this is an indie release, so there's currently one single place where you can find the game, and the link is down below in the description. Okay, so if you're interested in the game, that's literally the link that you should go to. Now, I will be in contact with the designer of the game, so if something changes, I will definitely make sure that I edit the description. I will change the links if need be, and I will give you additional information in the description when they change, okay? So you can rest assured that the info in the description will be updated as needed, okay? That's it. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for following the channel, liking, subscribing, commenting, all the good stuff. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing that. Consider clicking on the bell button as well, because if you click on that, it will notify you of new content on this channel. And one more thing before I go. If you like what I'm doing on the channel and if you would like to support the channel, I will be very thankful if you guys click on another link down below in this description, because that will lead you to my TeePublic t-shirt store, where there's a lot of interesting, fun t-shirt designs to choose from. So if you would consider buying a t-shirt or two from me, that would really help this channel grow. Even if you don't want to, maybe you will consider sharing the link with your friends, okay? Thank you in advance for doing that. And once again, thank you for watching. Before the next time, the only thing I have left to say, you probably know what it is. Wait for it. Play or be played, just don't stop playing. See you on the other side. Goodbye.